Today's special guest is Deonn, and she's here to show us how to use Lori Holt's Hexi Rulers. So welcome again, Deonn.
Oh, I'm so glad to be back.
I'm really excited about this project because these are Lori Holt's Hexi half rulers, and you've used her circle rulers, and you're going to show us how to use these.
Right, we'll even combine the two for a project at the end.
Okay.
But it's been so fun to play with these hexagon shapes. You see them everywhere in design, in flooring. I mean, I noticed the tiles on a bathroom the other day, and they're all little hexagons, and you dream in hexagons after a while.
Yes.
But we have some fun projects to make today.
Great.
And the way that Lori has designed her rulers, she's made them so that they can work on a 5-inch square or a 10-inch square, so perfect for pre-cuts. And her package comes with a pattern already in it.
A quilt pattern. Great.
So should we see how to use these rulers first?
Yes.
And then we'll start in on our projects. So we've got a 5-inch square here, and here's the hexi half. And you'll notice it has a line up the center and a dotted line where the seam allowance will be.
Okay.
And so if you fold your 5-inch square in half and lay that on, and I've put some stickets on the back of it so that it'll stay. These are just little dots that I put on the back of my rulers.
Fabric adhesive, and they
don't
really
stick.
Well.
You know, they don't grip it and they don't leave a residue or anything, but it makes it so that that ruler stay right in place when you're spinning.
And it stays on your ruler, but not necessarily on your fabric.
Right.
So
and we're using this little rotary mat, so you can cut all 4 sides on it.
Okay.
And then it spins
just
right
go
around.
right around the template. Has this little notch.
Yeah, and that notch makes it so that when the blocks need to fit together, then they're already aligned. You don't have any edges hanging over, and it's really easy to sew with these.
Okay, so we got our hexi half.
And once you sew those together, they'll make your hexagon. So let's see how we can put those together into a project. And here's our first project. It's going to be a pillow top.
Oh, isn't that cute? And you can't even really tell that these are pieced.
Yeah, you don't really see that seam line once it gets quilted or put into a pillow. Okay, so we have one more row to add, and then it'll finish up. And another nice thing about that little notch is that when you piece them together, it lays perfectly flat so on both sides. You know exactly where to stitch. So we'll stitch this together, and then we'll stitch it to the end of this row and finish our quilt.
So you're just sewing straight seams.
That's right.
And then you're
sewing a row one at a time.
And perfect.
And so easy
to do.
And so can you see where that line is on the halfway mark? So that makes it so you can make a straight edge along the outside.
Along the outside. Great. Okay, so we're going to sew these together. Do you usually pin them?
Sometimes, but it's not necessary if they're all lined up already.
Lined up. And that would just
that one goes right on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's take it to the machine and sew.
Great.
So we sewed the last 2 on.
Okay.
Remember, we put it up like that.
Yeah.
Sew there.
And that lined up just perfectly. And then that last one there. So we'll press it, and all the rest are pressed so this direction. So we'll do that the same on this one.
And how do you decide which direction you're pressing?
Well, I've pressed every other. If you flip that over, we can see that every other row
they're going that direction, this direction.
Is pressed, yes, alternating. And that's so that once we pin it, those seams will nestle perfectly. Can you see how the one seam direction goes one direction and the other one in the other direction? So we'll take a pair of some pins and pin it together. And our last row is done.
And then we can just finish our pillow.
Yeah, and then finish it however you want. You can put on, some rickrack around the edges or pom-poms. Just envelope it or quilt the top first or finish it however you'd like to. And I always like to go in one seam allowance and out the other. So that nestles those and keeps them snug so the needle can go over them.
Very good.
Great.
Okay, we'll finish sewing this, and then our pillow top will be ready to be completed.
Right. Okay.
That looks great.
Oh, so we'll press that out, and can you see how those match up just perfectly?
That makes it
nice
so
work.
easy.
Okay. So then to finish the pillow, we have a tutorial on fat quarter pillows on cutting corners that we could use to finish that up.
That would be really easy to do.
Be a really easy finish on it. Just put some cute trim around the edges. And sew the back to the front with a flap, and then you turn it inside out through the flap.
And you'd be good.
And there's our pillow top.
Very good.
Okay. One project down. Are you ready for the next one?
Yes. Show me what we're doing next.
Let's combine our two rulers, our set of our larger ruler here. And I'm also going to use the 7-inch circle from the circle ruler set.
Okay.
Okay, but first we're going to cut this out, and using that dotted line, we're going to put it right on the fold line.
So we're not
because we want actually to cut out a whole hexagon rather than just a small one. So we'll line that up right along the fold, and then we just have 3 sides to cut.
Okay.
All right. And this project is going to make a unit that looks like this. And here's a grandmother's flower garden. And we're actually going to make a hot pad out of this one.
Just one of these.
Just one unit, right. And this project combines the hexagon ruler and the circle ruler from Lori Holt's circle set.
Okay.
The 7-inch. Okay. So I, got a cereal box and traced half of the hexi. And with those little notches on the sides, it was easy to tell where I needed to rotate, and then trace the other half of it.
Okay, very good.
And then I took the 7-inch circle and just matched it from side to side and made an arc.
That is so clever.
And that's how we're going to make our little project. I'll hand those to you.
Great idea.
Okay, and then we made a template.
So this is our template.
Yes, and I actually made a nice one out of template material.
Okay.
Just in case that,
cardboard box.
It kind of gets a little wobbly or things like that. So we'll use that, and then we'll trace it. And I like to use a friction pen, which is one of those pens that you can trace with, and then the marks iron off with the steam. So I'll have you do that.
Okay.
And then we're going to just use that for our stitching line as we stitch it onto some Pellon, this sew-in Pellon that's very, very lightweight. It's a Pellon 905, I think is the number of it.
Okay.
So we'll sew that to the back of it. And that will help us to finish the edges. Okay.
Okay.
Super. All right, so we'll put this right sides together and then use those lines that we traced. This is a 12-inch square.
Just stitch around.
And then just start and then stitch all the way around it. And then we'll trim that off, turn it inside out, and then we'll be ready to lay our fabric and batting, and we're going to make a little hot pad to go with
our table
our
center.
little table center.
Okay.
Okay,
Great.
super. All right, so we've got that stitched. So now we can iron off the lines if we wanted to from the friction pen. And take the pinking shears and we'll trim about 1/4 of an inch around all those little scallops.
Then we're going to cut the center.
Then, yeah, we'll just make a little slice right in the Pellon and flip it inside out. We'll take some little clips right at those corners so that those will turn nicely too. Yeah.
Okay. Got that. Okay, so you want to cut out the center?
Yeah. So I'll make a little notch at each one of those intersections where it comes to a point. And clip to the thread but not through it. Then we'll make a little, it's hard to get
slit
this
in the middle.
Yeah, we'll make a little slit just in the pellon though. See how lightweight that is?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll make a little clip. And you can be really generous with this slice because it's all going to get covered up by your hexagon. And then just turn it right side out. And, you know, use my chopstick if I need to get those
to pull out
curves.
Your corners. Good idea.
Right.
That works really well with just your finger.
Yeah. Okay, and then when we press it, then we want to kind of roll that interfacing just slightly towards the center so it gets a nice edge on there.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll just use the nose of the iron and press that interfacing kind of away from the curve.
So
can you see how that,
yes,
how flat that looks and how smooth? We'll do that to all of the little scallops on this, and then we'll be ready. Okay. Okay. And can you see how that kind of overlaps in the center?
Yes, it's pulling
kind
everything in.
But it's so lightweight that, so you can see how those edges are smooth and they've kind of rolled under. You can't see any interfacing on the outside of it.
Looks great.
Okay, so now we're ready to lay our batting on the inside and our cute print. And these, for this table topper, it's got 1 layer of batting, but for the hot pads, we've got 3 layers of batting. So a couple layers of cotton, and then a layer of
special.
Yeah, it's got a mylar sheet in the middle of it that's heat reflective. You can kind of hear it crinkle.
It's a little heat resistant.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
hot pads, great.
So, and I've trimmed just about 1/8 of an inch off the batting so that it'll kind of tuck inside of our fabric piece, and we'll just line those points up right with the points on the outside.
So on every, all the corners that we clipped.
Right, and so now we can pin this down and we can take it and quilt through it. You could do any kind of fancy stitch, but it's just as easy.
So you quilt through it before you
flip the sides over.
Okay.
Right. So we'll just go from point to point. You can use
lines.
Just your walking foot or regular machine foot. And just quilt kind of a spider web through this. And wouldn't that be cute in some
Halloween fabrics?
Halloween,
Halloween hot pads. I think that would be great because it does kind of look like a spider web.
You know, if we mark it from point to point with that friction pin, we'll be able to iron those lines right out of it. So why don't we just take a minute and do that? And then we'll stitch
from point to point.
Right, then our lines will be straight.
And we just take a
stitch from
along
point
there.
to point.
And we'll just go around and do all of them. Okay. Okay. We got those marked. So
great, that'll be easy to sew.
Okay, we've got it quilted.
I know, isn't that just adorable? Looks perfect.
Looks great.
Okay.
Well, we can iron out our little
markings. And we'll remove those little marks. Guess we could do it now.
Works like magic.
It's kind of a neat little tool, isn't it? So those lines disappeared. Can't even see them. So now to finish a hot pad, we're just going to pin this down.
Just tuck those over.
And we'll pin them down and then just take a blanket stitch around the edges. That's what I did on these. Or you could hand stitch it down if you wanted to. I kind of like the blanket stitch because it's
very durable if you did a blanket stitch.
Quilted it and finished it at the same time. Now if you wanted to sew a bunch of these and put them together, then you wouldn't turn these over quite yet, not until you had a finished edge.
In your tutorial on the orange pill,
Oh yeah,
rulers
our circle runner kind of showed this technique where you take the curved edges and join them and then sew in a straight line and then peel them back and stitch them down, which is how I joined all of these.
Okay. And then you would just take this and go around at the end.
Yeah, and you can just make it continuous all the way around, and you know, and it worked out just darling. But for the hot pads, they're just single, so we'll just flip those over, blanket stitch those.
You added a little.
Yeah, and these little tabs, we've added buttons to the runner.
You put that on there.
And so it can sit like that on your table. My girls were darling. They got rifled through my things and put this on the table for Mother's Day. Put a little pot of flowers in the center. But
it's adorable and great use of Hexis.
Set that aside. Okay, so the hexagon, just the shape of it is so flexible and endless in design ideas. What's a shape that you would think of when you see the
Well, I see
hexagon?
this fabric and it looks like water.
Kind of does,
like a
doesn't
boat,
it?
Right?
Yeah. So let's cut this, but let's do it on the fold. And we'll cut a whole hexagon with this one.
Okay.
Go ahead and do that. This is such cute fabric.
Isn't that fun? It's a new line called Maritime Modern by Marin Sutton.
Really cute.
And it will be perfect to put this little boat on.
Yeah. If you had a quilt block, or you could put it on a baby blanket, and I'd probably just cut it on the fold like this, leave one of the sides open, and then put it on a corner or something. Cut out a couple of sails, and there's your little sailboat.
And you leave that open, maybe you could even have
you could tuck it right in.
Yeah.
Put a rickrack stem in there. Just darling.
Very fun. Great idea for that.
So if you open it up, though, you've got a stop sign. So that would be cute on the bottom of a blanket, too. Or on a baby blanket. Put a little white trim around it. Put their name through the center of it. I think that would be adorable.
Very cute.
Okay, here's a darling piece of fabric. What if we cut it into, let's do a whole hexie with that one too.
Okay.
And let's put it so that this line is on the fold. So that the top is on the fold.
Okay.
And the shape that comes to mind with that one is a little purse.
Do you cut off these ends then? These little tucked ends?
Yeah, well, yeah, just notch those ends because we'll just stitch all the way around it.
I think I need to just get that right there. We can cut that out. Okay.
Okay. And so this way, we've got a little purse. Then we could decorate that with some trim.
You could applique this onto a quilt.
Applique it onto the quilt,
or
make a banner or a quilt block, make a bunch of them, use a bunch of fun 10-inch squares to do that with. And then we can put a little hexagon flower on there, which we'll show you how to do in just a few minutes.
And we made a lot of these at Quilt Market.
We did.
Yep. So we're going to show you how to make these. It's almost like origami,
but we call it
fabric.
Hexagami.
Hexagami.
Right. Okay, so we'll be using this in our next project. And let's just open up your UFO to go here and see what we've got to play with now. Okay, so I've prepared a little background fabric for
could be a wall
just a wall hanging.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got a little grass. This is your crimp fabric. That's so cute. This is just one of the basic shades and a cute print, flower print on the outside of it. So what we're going to do is put a stem, a couple of leaves, and a big flower, and then we'll put a little hexagami flower on the center of it.
Sounds adorable.
I'm going to set that aside.
Should we put it down here as we're working on it?
Sure. So I was experimenting the other day with the half hexie shapes, and if we lay this out, every other one, I'm going to overlap that just to allow for the seam allowance, just so you can see. These will get sewn kind of in a ring.
And it's going to make your flower.
And it will make a flower. Right.
So you just did a tone-and-tone polka dot and then our solid.
Yeah, and the solid is darling with this. This one will go here. And there's the outside of our flower. And then we'll have an inside of our flower that we'll do our hexagami with. So let's go ahead and pin this. And we'll pin it in pairs.
Okay.
And so right over left.
And I'll just pin at the top so I know where to stop.
Right, and see, remember that notch is already made for you, so that's where you start.
I'll just pin it where we...
where it starts in the sewing machine.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll sew these.
Okay, so let's just press these open.
We'll just lay them out and repin.
Just a couple more seams. Okay, now if we can put the puzzle back together again. All right.
There we go.
Right, so we'll join this one to here, this one to here.
Okay.
This one over here.
Pins.
Okay. Here you go. And we'll just do one at a time, and when we come back, we'll have a ring. Okay.
Magically, it comes all together.
No, isn't that kind of a miracle that it did that? So we'll just press those seams. And we'll use this like an applique piece, and it will be the base of our flower.
Okay.
All right?
It's looking good.
So we can put that wherever we want it. We've got some jumbo rickrack here, and I've actually, can you see that?
Slit.
I unstitched there just a little bit so I can slide that under.
Oh, that looks good.
And there's our stem. We can make them wiggle a little bit or just go straight up the center. And then we're going to put a little hexagami flower right in the center of it.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Isn't that cute?
Yeah.
And we've also made
two half hexes.
Right, so we cut a full hexagon and then just stitched them around for the leaves. And this time on this one, we put the fold line on the short end so it made a butterfly. And then we'll put him somewhere out here and use some more of this cute little fancy rickrack for his body. Oh, I just think that's so adorable. And, you know, if we had more trim, we could put around the edges of it.
You could needle turn this?
So you could turn this under. It'd be easy to turn those corners under.
You could blanket stitch around
or hand stitch. And should we show how to do these little hexagami flowers?
Yes, we absolutely should.
All right. So.
You need a whole hexie for that.
You'll need a whole one, right. We're going to show two different methods. One to make a hexagon with a circle, and then we'll make this large one.
And we should say we have the actual tutorial on Cutting Corners College. So if you want to look at the PDF or the step-by-step written out, we have it there on our website.
Too. And it's not a new method. I'm sure that it's an origami pattern out there somewhere, which is a Japanese art of folding fabric to make cute shapes and designs. So, do you want to make a big one, and I'll make a small one over here?
Sure.
Okay. So to start with, we're going to fold it, and that one's kind of been pre-folded. Yeah. Fold it so that the point meets in the middle and finger press.
And good finger press.
And I starched these. Yeah, you're really relying on these fold marks. So scoot it, fold it again so the point is in the center.
And you're just working around the circle, right?
Right. Finger pressing, fingernail pressing if you're... Okay. And then I flip it over and press from point to point so that there's a straight line in between. and then shift.
I think I've
finger
got one
press.
done.
Shift, finger press that. So now all we need is a needle and thread, and then we can make our little hexagamis. This is a good skill for anyone to learn or practice using a needle and thread. That's kind of a lost art these days, isn't it?
Sewing.
Okay, so I'm going to lay this down so that the fold lines to the points are facing down.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So it's going to fold up.
Right.
Okay.
And I take a little tiny bite out of the center and pull the thread through.
Okay.
Or to the knot. Okay, so that fold line towards the inside, halfway between the points, take another little bite, about an eighth of an inch in from the edge.
Okay.
And it folds in half and anchors at the center.
Okay, just like that.
Yeah, and then we'll take another stitch or two, a little whip stitch to secure that. Okay, the next one will be skip the point and then grab
the center again.
Yes, that fold line that's coming towards you. And then we'll anchor that again with another stitch or two. And then we'll show how to make that first little diamond shape that creates our little star.
And we're just going around skipping the point.
Well, let's just do one.
Okay.
For now, and just make sure that it's
two.
Oh, that's fine. Okay, we'll secure him, and then we'll be ready for the second one once you finish the first guy.
I'm always trying to jump ahead.
I know, it's you. Just gotta keep an eye on you, Cindy.
Okay.
Okay, so it should already have a little fold to the
like
point.
That. Mm-hmm.
Right, so if you pinch that together, give a nice crease, then fold it to the left.
Fold it to the left.
Fold it to the right. And while you're doing this, you're creating that first corner of your hexagon. Okay. And if you were to, if you wanted to, at this point, you could take it to the sewing machine and actually stitch that if you wanted to. These are so small, and this is just going to be a wall hanging, so we're going to skip that part. Okay, so we've got one little point, and now we're going to make a little tree shape.
Like that.
So it squishes down, and then that point comes to the center. All right? So we finger press that, and I like to get a nice crisp line out to the corner. Okay, and now the tricky part is grab that little point and pull him. Make sure this is anchored down in the center still. Pull him, and you'll see those edges start to curl in. And that will form your diamond shape.
Okay, and finger press
Finger
on the
press
bottom
that.
part. Because we've already done the top.
Right. And then if you fold that back down to the center,
there's your diamond.
There's your diamond. It magically appears. Now the fun thing about this is, you know, these are raw edges in the center. Yes, stitch it down with a couple more stitches. And then you can move to your second one.
And that is just creating this.
Right. So by the time you finish, you're an expert at this. You can teach it. You can make thousands of them. They're kind of addicting.
They are, and they're so cute. You could embellish, like we said before, a bag or your quilt.
You can make a bunch of them, and once they're all made, you could stitch them together in the traditional way, put them all together, and make a bigger project, because those angles will all be the same.
Instead of yo-yos, you could do
hexi yo-yo kind of thing. Okay, so let me show you another technique. Do you want to finish that one, or
I will stop. I'm having so much fun. I will stop right now.
Finish
partially through. So very good.
Okay,
I got my 2 points.
Yeah,
it's coming along.
Darling.
It is addicting.
Okay, so I've used a 4-inch square. And we'll make a little simpler hexagon this time. And the fun thing about him is that he's just all folded too.
Okay.
Okay? So he's pre-folded, but I'm going to make you do him. So fold it in half.
This way?
Either way.
I don't flip it over.
No, it doesn't matter.
I want to flip it over.
And then fold it in half again.
Okay.
And that just gives us a center space. All right, and we're just going to kind of work with folding and not stitching yet. So take that outside edge and fold one of those edges right to the center. Okay.
Like that?
Finger press hem.
Yes.
And that point that you've just made right here
Mm-hmm.
becomes the center now. So fold hem to the center. Finger press that line all the way out. And then you'll continue doing that all the way around until you get a hexagon shape. That outside point comes right to the center. There's 5. Okay, and can you see how you kind of need to release this first one so you can work on number 6. Release the second one. I usually release 2 by the time I get to this point. That way, when I'm ready to do that last point, then it's already folded for me, and it tucks in so nicely.
Just like that.
Yeah.
I think just like that.
Right. Okay, and then when you apply it, then you undo it, and you can see exactly where your fold lines are. Stitch on those lines to hold it down, to applique it on, and then it's easy to refold.
And then you'd probably just
and then
stitch in the middle.
Stitch a little button to finish it. Now
you
can do this.
Your raw edges, so on all of these we added a
that's the fudge factor. You cover up, the center. It's on this one you could turn the edges under and have a finished edge here.
Okay, great.
But on this one, it's just too bulky, so cover it up with a cute button, and aren't those darling?
Very good.
Okay, so if we use this for the center of our flower over here, then we can use a bunch of smaller ones on the bottom of it. Oh, and another thing I discovered is that you want a print that's going to read as a solid, a tone on tone, or a solid or a shade.
Looks better.
Yeah, because the diamonds kind of get lost in this one. So he's a reject, but all of these will look so cute on your finished project.
Well, Deonn, you've given us so many projects to work with these Hexi Rulers.
Hasn't that been fun? And the design possibilities are endless.
Just use your imagination, and hopefully you'll make something out of our Hexi Rulers. But thank you so much for coming, Deonn.
Thank you. So fun.